Hi, Kate.
Hi, Phyllis. How are you?
Good on the meeting. Could people tell me their names, please? David McCarthy? Mark who? Mark.
Sorry, David McCarthy's here. I'm just getting my camera hooked up.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I don't know who the Mark is. Is that Mark Whitney?
It's Mark Whitney. Mark Whitney.
Hi,
He's
Mark.
here. We're looking for Jeff. Is Jeff on here?
Hello.
He's not here yet. It's just
Not here yet. People to when they speak to come over so you guys can hear and see who's speaking.
Thank you.
I mean, because it's otherwise.
So thanks, Phyllis. This is LeVar. Go ahead and call the meeting to order.
Okay, if it's all right, I'm gonna mute and turn the camera
Okay.
off.
Thank you.
I'm not on the.
Oh, oops.
All right, so this is LeVar, and I'm going to call the meeting to order. We have a few changes to the agenda. One is
Phyllis, can you unmute so we can hear the town hall?
so we have a couple changes to the agenda. One is,
am I unmuted?
One more time, Phyllis.
unmuted that person. There you go. That's it. Right.
Okay.
All right. So two changes to the agenda: a liquor license approval and an appointment to the First Branch Ambulance Board. So, do we have anything else? All right. So first, we'll go to a public comments section, since we have a number of people here at the town hall and a few people online. So if you can raise your hand to comment on anything, please.
Get their name.
Feel free to, and state your name before you comment, please.
And then go up and talk, right? Yes, and then come up here and talk.
All right, Stephen Thomas, come on up so we can hear you on the box here.
So we're just brought Samantha and the state troopers and anybody else that from the state that could come in and talk to us about what we have to do as far as community watch, as far as getting help when we need it, because there's a lot of people in the community that when we call the police, they don't come. There's been a string of break-ins, attempted break-ins, and thefts in Orange, not just Chelsea, but Orange County over the past month, and it seems to have escalated to a point where they need to take matters into their own hands now, and we're just trying to, so to say, to see what we have to do as far as coming up with legislation, or just find out where the break is in communication between the people in town and the state police, the sheriff, and really basically why we've asked everybody to come here tonight.
Okay. So, Steve, we have the state police here. Would you all like to make any comments? I know Samantha's here too, and you were interested in commenting. Linda, okay.
Thanks, Steve.
Linda Cuban. Having run First Branch for 35 years, I've had a lot of interaction with the state police, and very frustrating. I know they're out in an accident, and I think that we all need to be a little understanding. 3 troopers on duty at night or something, and they're all in Rochester doing something that, But I think too would speak to our legislators. And I brought this up at our meeting that we had, an example of, we got called to a gentleman's lawn. This was probably about a year and a half, almost 2 years ago. A year and a half ago, yeah. And we were told, in stage means we wait until the police were told to go ahead. And when we got there, it was, I think that there was some mental health issues along with alcohol and whatever else. And then we were told the state police weren't coming. Well, needless to say, especially when I was sitting at home listening to all this. So I talked, I believe it was Sergeant Hudson I talked to, who in the end, I think we were friends, not at the beginning. But, and what he explained to me, the legislature system had the year before about just picking somebody up and just putting them under arrest for their own protection. And I've got the statute in my book. It's under Title 18. What we have, state police who have been told by the legislature they should not respond to those incidents. And us, our rules for the legislature says, and that we can't take them against their will, so what do you do with somebody? I mean, as I told the sergeant that night, I said, road, and then he'll be in danger to the public. And, but that is the thing. The legislature has no consequences of the laws they're passing. They don't take into consideration when they pass a law for the state police, it trickles on down to the rest of us. That is one message that we can get across. We got to get that across. And I just think that it does. It's hard. I realize it's very for many years. I know how tight it is for troopers, but it's kind of scary out here, and it's getting scarier. And I think, and of course, I have one other little rant I go on is the fact that we have troopers highly trained in investigation and all of this, constantly listening to them, especially in the wintertime, babysitting somebody who slid off I-89 for an hour waiting for a wreck. Need lights there so that nobody else gets involved in that accident. To me, it's insanity that we're doing that. Maybe what we need is a separate, but I just would urge everybody who's even thinking about this. I don't think there's a solution right here. There's a few little to make things better, but we've got to become a loud voice in up here. Yep.
Thanks, Linda. Linda's comments were directed at the legislature. We have Samantha here, and if you'd like to make a few comments, Samantha, please go ahead. Thank you. Just state your name at the machine here.
Hi, so I'm Samantha LaFave, State Representative for Orange County District 1. So I have been hearing the concerns and the unfortunately, and it has driven straight home because up into the same people that are traveling up and around. And so I reached out to our commissioner, Commissioner Shirley, who can meet with, and I wanted a raffle just to have the community to be able to have like a Q&A, basically. Like, these are the people that can do and could, or at least give you answers of why something's happening. Like, I feel there's a big breakdown between why is someone being caught, released, why is somebody, being able to repeat offend, what is this and how can we prevent it, and what can I do as your legislator to put in a piece of legislation, hopefully to be taken up off the wall to make a stop to this, right? And I've heard many words of wisdom of, it was one piece of legislation that got us here, and it's not going to be one piece that gets us out. But being the voice and being the person, that's something that I am more than happy and honored to do, even if it just gets us being a noise there, right? So I need people to come forward, and I need people to support, and I know I need people right now. I'm amongst a little bit of a wave of people in legislation that is, I know Mr. Corbett gave it bunch more restrictions, and that gives less options for our judges to be able to do things. Did I say that right, sir? Okay. And I highly agree with there's being very prescriptive at a state level, when I believe that should be local control. Always local control with your officers. I should not be telling these fine troopers how to determine what to do with somebody. I was a firefighter and EMT for 5 years, and I've been on many calls where I wish an officer could do something, and they stood there and they said, well, until they do something, I can't get them to do something, but you kind of wish they would, so that way you had a little bit of, because that you feel bad for that person and you feel bad for the people that are helping. So I am here to be the person that asks questions and gets people together. And again, I apologize for everything that has happened that people have had to go through. Should ever feel that that you're not being heard to, and no person should ever feel not safe in their own home. I had called VSP about a month ago because somebody wouldn't stop coming to my home. Finally, 10 o'clock, that person just sat in my driveway and sat. And they did come. They went to every single house, and then neighbors said my neighbors literally sat there so I could go to sleep. And so the trooper went on his way, but he did make contact with me and he did follow up. And I do believe that that the troopers are feeling that they're not responsive. We will get that communication fixed. And if that means I will do that. Because I work for you, and that's what I'm here to do, represent you. So if people have anything, please reach out to me. I have cards and my purse at all times. I do. Surely do.
Even if you call at 10 o'clock, she'll either soon after or the next morning. Thanks, Amanda. Anyone else have any comments?
I would like to serve, but I'm not a Chelsea resident. I was.
Is there any way you could come up so that the folks on the computer, because we have a number of people online. And just, sir, so they can be aware as well. Thank you.
Good evening, all. My name is Robert Childs, and I was a resident here in town for 64 years, and
On the school board,
unfortunately,
remember that?
oh yeah, school board, board of listers, everything else. But anyway, I've been involved with crime in this area for over 50 years now. And I worked with people that have been in that uniform and have since died. Tunbridge, 43 years, and I've watched the policing change over the years. And I ask people today, our legislature has handcuffed them, literally. And you feel, though, that one of the major issues we have, because there's a million stories out there, is a communications issue. And I don't think there's enough communication between the department and the state police. I don't think there's enough communication between the state police and community members. I don't think there's enough communication with our local law enforcement, our sheriff. I'm from the old school. I remember you called the sheriff up if it was a property crime. That's not going to happen today. They don't have the resources, and we don't have the financial resources to pay enough to have that kind of protection. But I think we can improve, and I guess that's my main point here, is a community watch group that knows when they make a phone, they'll get a response. Now, it may not be exactly what they're looking for, but it is a response. It's a return. The person that place is broke into, a week later or 2 weeks later, maybe that boom and just says, hey, we're still working on this thing. We don't have anything yet. Or we've made some progress, but I'd rather not say what it is right now because we don't want it to get out on the street until we lock this thing down. But some kind of thing needs to improve. The rest of it, heard it from Linda, it's outside of our circle of influence right now. And so I think it's important to concentrate on what we can do right now and move on to the bigger picture in 20. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any additional comments or concerns you'd like to remember?
I have a question for.
Yeah, Linda, come up here.
I guess I have a question
Yeah,
for
I
the
think
state
we'll-
police. Do you have any intention of getting the intelligence-based community programs up and going again?
Do I have to sit in that chair to answer? Okay, all right. So I'm Barbara Kessler. I'm the lieutenant with the state police in Royalton. I run the station. So what I wanted to bring up tonight is that we did have this great intelligence-based policing thing in Tunbridge. And a lot of Chelsea people attended to, some Sharon people. We really, really were encouraged. Then, of course, COVID hit. So that really kind of crippled us, and we didn't have the ability to keep going with that. And now we're severely having some staff issues. So I would like to say that we can actually put this in motion, but we hope to do that. If a trooper is not able to attend, we may need the community's help, or maybe some people from Tunbridge who are really actively involved with the Tunbridge IVP and show you, because that would really help us out. It doesn't take me standing in front of a room talking to you about your community. I don't know about your community. I don't know who lives where. I don't know who doesn't live house full time that's going to be a victim of a burglary. I don't know that, but you guys do. The other thing that I think I want to stress is so we have the ability. I mean, I've spent $100. I've got little cameras on my house. So I know, $100 is a lot thing, but it's peace of mind too. And that might help you sleep at night, and just set it so it can, and, my boyfriend's got one too, and it dings all the time, like if an animal, but you know what? If you think there's people in the neighborhood that are up to no good, that would really help, it might help you sleep.
We have it.
Okay.
We have the problem being is just
This is
No,
Steven
Steven.
Thomas.
the problem being is the people that
Come on up.
sorry the people that for specific the people that I caught breaking into a house, I saw them last night. I have cameras on my security to know that they're not going to stop at my house. They're not going to do anything, because in my mind, if I call the police, if it's late night, what's going to happen? Are they going to come or not? You know what I mean? And I understand the short staff, and I understand all that. But these people have no fear anymore that they're going to be. They run the streets like there's no fear of going to jail. There's no fear of being held responsible for anything they do. Perfect example is Amanda Conant.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she's been arrested, and I heard from the horse's mouth that one of the worst crime sprees. And she gets arrested. Next day, she's out on $250 bail. That same day, and that's how time's over now. Where's the break? What do we have to do? Like, is she going to have to hurt somebody, or is someone going to have to hurt her in order for this to be over? People are scared. I mean, everybody have seen over the past 2 weeks. I mean, they wrote on the hood of their car in 2020, and it's like that shows that that's a game to them. It shows, I mean, they stole a septic truck. We have her on video stealing ATVs in this whole area. It's like everybody feared that their house was going to be broken into by this. It goes to court and the judge says, oh, well, you know, not a flight risk. It's not good enough. And I understand it's not your fault, but like, what do we have to do as a community? I understand, you know, be loud. I get that, but we've got to do something, you know, because it's just, the whole community is at wit's end. They are.
Can I answer?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. So my suggestion on that is that you are communicating with each other a lot about, you know, what you're seeing, things out of place, whatever. If there's a car on your road that you don't recognize, things like that. I mean, honestly, we aren't going to prevent the Amanda Conants of the world from doing what they're doing. They are a product of our broken society. You know, I'm sure she was victimized. I'm sure she's, you know, just a broken victim, bound by certain restrictions to say for certain law violations. And that's extremely frustrating for us because we would like to go do other things. Like when you call up and you get the one on duty and they have to go deal with something, they don't want to be dealing with Amanda Conant for the 25th time because she's not in jail where she should be, because she's not going to change her ways unless, you know, she's got counseling, she's got, you know, off whatever she's on, and a perfect place for that would be jail. But the jails are under their own restriction. I mean, it's just, it's a whole system. And we got to figure out how to make it work. And I'm a Vermont resident too. And it makes me sad. I feel like Vermont is worse off now than it was when I was hired 20 years ago. So that's really upsetting to me. I want to make it a place where people want to come and stay and live and be safe. I don't know the answers. I don't know how to prevent them from doing it. But yeah. Yeah, I mean, create a network of neighbors, you know, check on your elderly folks that don't get out, you know, that may be ripe for a break-in or becoming victimized by, you know, people who thought the break-in and then all of a sudden, you know, I mean, we had that homicide in Bridgewater years ago that was basically that, you know, elderly woman living by herself and guy breaks in and he kills her because she confronts him. So, you know, let's not have that happen, but I don't know how to fix it. All I can say is keep calling us and be really clear about what you need. So hopefully my sergeants and my troopers will listen. And if they don't, please reach out to me. So, and then I can fix it from there. It might not be fixed like that day, but I can work on it. So.
Thank you. Anyone else? We have Mr. Corbett.
Hi, so I'm Dixon Corbett. I am the Orange County State's Attorney. We know that there is a social cost to crime. It makes us feel less safe. It makes us feel less secure. It makes us more vulnerable. It causes people who've never locked their doors to start locking their doors. And when that happens, we lose something as a community. We're withdrawing into ourselves. We're withdrawing away from our neighbors. And there's a real palpable feeling that we're losing not just a connection, but a way of life. We have really talented law enforcement. We have really talented professionals leading our agencies, leading the state police, Lieutenant Kessler, Captain Farmer. We have really compassionate troopers. It takes a remarkable human empathy every time they go out on a call to put their own life on the line in the interest of helping people and protecting each other. And when we limit what they can do when they arrive somewhere, we create a situation in which we start to feel like they can't respond to all the situations that are happening. and that there are situations to which they can't help. And then when someone is arrested and they come into the court system, it's a really delicate moment because their constitutional rights when they're first arrested are at the highest point because they're presumed to be innocent. But we also know that rapid intervention is the most successful way of making change. And rapid intervention is the time when the community needs a response in order to feel safe. And there are ways of dealing with that, but it requires individualized determinations to be made in each and every case. And when we limit the number of the kinds of arguments that a prosecutor can make, when we limit the kinds of responses that a judge can impose in response to a situation, and when we limit the amount of bail, for example, that a judge can impose, or the types of conditions or the resources available, we create a situation in which people feel like the criminal justice system isn't responding to the situations. That creates fear. It creates a lack of security. It creates precisely the social cost that we're here expressing tonight. I'm really grateful that we have people who are really articulate, really passionate, very talented at communicating. Stephen and Kate and Jen, Mr. Childs, they have done a really good job of expressing a feeling that we all have and share. And they're bringing a really important message to the community. And the message I have is that we're listening. There are really talented executive branch officials who are listening and who entered this line of work precisely to help. The more trust we can give to our executive branch officials to do the work that they've been trained for, the work that they know how to do and the work they want to do, the more responsive government and the criminal justice system will be to these situations. I don't have any specific recommendation for legislation except to encourage the legislature to trust the executive branch. Trust our law enforcement officers, trust our prosecutors, trust the judges to come up with the right solution. If you give them the tools and the ability to make the right decision in each and every case, the quality of the decision making will get better. The quality of the public protection will get better. I'm here to listen tonight. I'm happy to talk with anyone outside of the meeting tonight or at any time.
Thank you, Dixon. Do we have anyone else who'd like to make a comment?
Would anybody else like to make a comment on Zoom?
And just a note for our board, we do have a couple sections in our agenda for us to have discussion, but if you'd like to make a comment in the public comment section, we can do that as well.
I don't see anybody on Zoom that's raising their hand. Thank you.
But anyone else?
I hate to miss the opportunity.
Well, yeah.
I'm Captain Roger Farmer. I'm the troop commander for the southern half of the state. Just a little bit about me. I'm kind of a local boy. I grew up in Randolph, graduated from Randolph High School. My father was a lieutenant with the Vermont State Police as a station commander in Royalton as well before my time. So I'm familiar with the area and the challenges that we face here locally. I've heard a lot of people defending the state police and law enforcement in general tonight, so I appreciate that. It means a lot. You spoke about how much law enforcement has changed over the last 50 years. It's changed more in the last 15 months than I've seen over my entire career. So that's how quickly things are changing right now. It's just unprecedented times that we're dealing with. Things and challenges that we couldn't have possibly predicted over the last year and a half. But you also hit it on the head. It's communication. And I think 2 or 3 people said the same thing. It's communication, communication, communication. Some of your complaints and concerns, and nothing I say tonight is I don't want it to come across as an excuse, but a lot of your concerns and complaints, there are other reasons behind the scenes that you may not be aware of. But if you don't bring those concerns forward to us, it's going to fester, it's going to get worse. So those open lines of communication between you and us are extremely important. I would love to say that we could be everywhere all the time and be responsive to every single call that we get, but that's just not the reality of it. To some extent, we have to triage some of the calls that we get. Probably my boss will shoot me for saying this, but obviously there was some folks that don't realize that we are not a 24-hour agency. As of 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the morning, we're off duty. And at that point, we only have generally two troopers and a sergeant that are on call and respond to calls after 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And then day shift takes over the on call at 4:30 in the morning. And those troopers live, they're pretty well spread out from Mendon to Heartland to Rochester. So
To Guilford.
to Guilford, exactly. One in Guilford. So response times are another concern, but that's another reality that we just have to deal with. It's horrifying to think that if an emergency situation is going on after hours, the reality of what our response time looks like, but that's the system we have to work with. Luckily, 99% of the time that system works, but there's always concerns of that small percentage that something really bad could happen, but overall it works. I think we've scratched the surface on a lot of really big topics tonight that we just don't have the opportunity to dive into in depth. But if we're able to get some version, I think we're calling it something different now. It's the Community Policing Initiative, which is taking over the intelligence-based. So it's the same idea, but it's a little different twist, a little different focus on what we're trying to accomplish. And we were literally ready to pull the trigger on that before COVID hit, and then just everything shut down, and everything else in the law enforcement community has come into place since then. And I never want to use staffing as an excuse for not being able to do something, but again, when we have 2 troopers and a sergeant covering 19 towns and 110 miles of interstate, it becomes problematic sometimes to be able to staff those meetings. So we are facing those challenges, but so it really becomes a question about how can we best utilize our limited resources, and by being able to focus on specific areas as a result of open communication with communities like yourselves, I think we can focus in a little bit, and I know that we can be more responsive in some areas when we can. So I appreciate the invite tonight. Pete, please feel free to reach out to Lieutenant Kessler or myself. I expect we'll have more dialogue in days and weeks to come, and we'll certainly be responsive in the areas that we can. So thanks for having us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I want to, we're all good on that. No one else is there. And I just want to thank everyone for providing their comments. As a board here, we are aware of and familiar with many of these concerns, and we will try our best to make sure you have a venue to discuss them publicly and at least get some satisfaction of knowing that something, at least if someone's listening, or something can be done. So thank you. All right, so we'll move on to the next parts of our agenda. So board members, do we have any conflict of interest to disclose? No. None. All right, so before we approve the minutes, I want to go to the liquor license and the ambulance board appointments. So do we have a motion to approve the liquor license for
First.
yeah, is it named the business?
Roger. Was that called Community Policing Initiative? Okay, I look online. I think it's
Free Verse Farm LLC.
Thank you. First Farm LLC.
Oh, right here. There's the.
So Mark Whitney moved to approve the liquor license for Free Verse Farm LLC. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
I'll second it.
So if Mary Alice seconded, is there any discussion? I have one question, Karen. Are there any concerns with compliance in the past, or is this the initial license? Nope.
Oh, come on over here, Karen. Oh, yeah, okay.
Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
Unmute yourself, Mark.
Yeah, I'm working on it. Oh, there you go.
Everything's different. You want a tablet?
Hi, this is Karen. It says I'm Mark, but it's Karen. This is an initial liquor license, second-class liquor license, and there no conditions that they need to meet at this point when they get a license. If there are any violations, they're reported to the town clerk, and then before they get their next license, they have to complete some training and they have to provide us with that.
Karen, is that license just for beer and wine, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Is there second class means?
Second class, that's called. Okay.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? If not, we can vote. So all in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Hi.
All right, that's unanimous. Thank you. All right, so we'll go ahead and sign that. All right, and the next item that we put on here for immediate attention would be to appoint Linda Kubin to the ambulance board, given that Deb Upham has resigned. Is there a motion on the floor to appoint Linda Kubin to the ambulance board? All right, Mark Whitney moved to appoint Linda Kubin to the board. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, it's been seconded by Mary Ellen. Is there any further discussion? All right, well, let's vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Hi.
All right, well, that's unanimous. All right. So now we are up for approving the previous select board minutes. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
Move we approve the minutes.
Mark Whitney has moved to approve the select board minutes for was it 1 June? Is there a second? Kate, is there a second?
Yes, I'll second that.
All right, so Kate McLeod seconded. Is there any further discussion? All right, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All right, that's unanimous as well. All right. We have appointments that we don't have anyone suggested for, except for John Upham, appointment for fire warden. Is there a motion to nominate John Upham?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to nominate John Upham to be the town forest fire warden.
Okay, so Mary Ellen has moved to appoint John Upham as the fire warden, and it's been seconded by Mark Whitney. Is there any further discussion? All right, let's vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So I think we are at a good spot to, I think it's 10 after 8. We can quickly move into the,
Can we add one thing? I know it's too late to add, but there's a couple grants that have to be signed that we were missed by
all right,
the chair. He's not here, so
all right.
we all
So,
need those signed tonight.
so since it's an emergent issue and we didn't vote on the agenda as orders of the day, we can go ahead and do that. So go ahead and
What are they?
I make a motion that we sign the agreement for the grant for town highway paving and town highway class 2 roadway grant and municipal road, so in the amount of, we need to get that, $175,000 for the class 2 roadway grant and the municipal roads grants and aid program grant for $18,400.
What was that for?
Grants and aid program,
municipal grants and aids, another road grant.
Yeah.
And then there's one other thing, I don't know if I need to have an okay on this thing that came in the email today about this money that we're getting for the state.
For COVID.
And COVID money that they're handing out to the states, but it has to be used for certain things, and they're still working on that. But we have to claim the money if we want it. We
Okay.
don't have to spend it, like 2 years to spend it.
2028, I think they told me. I did get an email. I emailed the LCT to find out. Use it for water, sewer, but not road and bridge. But we have until 2028. So I would recommend that we accept it and then decide how we're going to spend it.
Okay.
We're going to roll these all into one.
No, independently.
Okay.
I think we do independently.
All right.
All right. So Mary Ellen has moved to move down the highway class 2 roadway grant for $175,000. Is there a second? Mark Whitney has seconded that. Is there any further discussion? Nope. So let's vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Next one
$18,400.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Mark Whitney has seconded it. Is there any further discussion? All right, let's vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
This is something different. This is money coming down the pipe to all.
Yeah, we gotta put,
Oh, okay.
Funding for
Oh,
to
okay.
boost the economy type thing.
Let's
Why
change
don't we
that.
put this on the agenda for the next meeting? If it's not, just so people might be interested in that. And if you don't have it on the agenda, nobody on it. So those other grants are like annual grants that are always offered. This is kind of a big deal. So I think we put that on the agenda as its own item for next meeting.
Yeah, and then I'll just forward all that.
Okay.
information. And then
Just in case somebody's in the community. say about it.
this is tractor rental that we do every year, just needs to be signed.
All right, do we have to, like,
Is that for road?
It's in your budget.
Is that for roadways driving?
Yeah, it's,
No, well, he's not authorized to sign agreements, I would think.
No, I think the chair.
Yeah, but I mean, I would think it's in the budget, we do it every year, we don't have to vote on it, but. I don't think we need to vote on it.
where's that, Karen?
I don't think you need a motion once it's under budget.
No.
It's just an agreement between you and the company.
Okay. Unless we've changed it. Well, does anyone have an objection to the?
All right, I make a motion that we sign an agreement with Tenco, for our, what's that called? Our annual tractor rental for $2,500 a week, $8,500 a month. The lease is for the term of 4 weeks, 160 hours for a total of $8,500.
All right, so motion's been made to approve the agreement with Tenco as stated with those numbers. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, the motion was made by Mary Ellen. It's been seconded by Mark Whitney. Is there any further discussion?
I've just got a question. I don't know if you can hear me. My sound is kind of messed up, but is this is all I assume okay by Rick?
Budget.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Kate. Is there any other discussion? All right, let's vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right. So now we can go into the Water Department Board meeting.
Right during this one.
Yep, let's go at it.
8:15.
Yep, at 8:16, 2016. So I will call the Water Department Board meeting to order. Let's see. I know in the past is Jeff on?
No.
He's not on yet. He's having trouble connecting.
But in the past, the previous board had concerns about the water, the cost and the amount of money we were putting into a capital fund or reserve fund. I know Jeff was going to take the lead on that. Do you have any new news or anything about?
I just
Yeah.
printed out like the out.
Gail, I don't know if anybody can hear you. Come over here.
I just printed out the like not current overages, outstanding. And several of those have been working with me and communicating. They have been making payments. There's just one that probably won't be paid until it's tax sailed. And the total amount that is outstanding for the water and sewer is $15,688.19.
So that's the outstanding bills. Okay. Thanks, Gail. Do you have any information about the about whether we need to take action on the rates or whether we reviewed?
Well, I did print out the budget and our income for the first part of the year up until today is $83,025.81, and then our expenses so far are $72,971.69.
83,000 what?
025.
Oh, 25, okay.
So we're not running a deficit. No, we're 10,000
Right.
ahead.
Right.
And then I also wrote down, how often we had upped the rates.
Mhm.
And it seemed like every year up until 2016, we upped them. And then we went 2 years and we upped the rate. And we haven't changed the rate since 2018.
Okay.
Gail, could you email us all that information, the rates? Just, I don't know, you probably have to go through and look it up, but yeah.
And that was Mary Ellen. Thanks, Gail.
Yeah.
All right, so I take it that we don't have any action to take at this point. I know we have a couple other things under the Water Department Board meeting, long-term drought policies. I know we mentioned this at our last meeting. We had talked with, we had decided that the board was concerned about drought. So I talked with Nolan and I told him, we're concerned about it. Are you concerned about it? If you become concerned about the well is not being recharged at a certain rate or our water supply, just let the board know. Nolan said he wasn't concerned at that point and he knows to let us know if he has any issues.
Mhm.
So I don't think there's anything else with that.
Right.
Do we have any, I'm not sure what the aquifer protection and the long-term planning for privatization is. All right, so we'll go ahead and skip over those. And I think we can, is there any comment from the public? Could have had that on there.
I guess my question is, so we do these 4 times a year? So
Ye-
what?
yes, so-
and when's our next one? So if we do want to look at the rates or anything?
It's skip.
September, I think. Okay.
And they don't usually coincide with our select board meeting, but if we had warned it in a way that it would be at a clear periodicity, but it didn't coincide with select board meeting. If we wanted to coincide, then we should re-warn the meetings to coincide with the select board meeting.
Well, certainly if you're thinking about raising rates, you want to be sure it's warned.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I would like
That's
to see
right.
them as a separate
Yeah.
meeting, personally, but
We
I think throwing it in the middle of our select board agenda is
we can do that.
um,
We can do a separate meeting.
in the
So we
future.
can,
Yeah, just so that it's clear if somebody's interested in that, it doesn't take away from.
that's Mary Ellen,
Sorry.
so that they can hear you.
I would just suggest in the future, we warn the water board meetings as separate meetings, just to keep things.
Could you hear all right? Can everybody hear okay? Okay.
Yeah.
So is there any comment from the public about the water department Board. All right, thank you. So we will leave that meeting at 2021. Which is a nice short meeting. All right, so now we'll move on to the retirement plans or potential defined benefit retirement plans for employees. I know this is on here because we had some folks that asked about it. And we're interested in knowing why we don't have a defined benefit plan as opposed to the plan that we currently have.
Come over here, Gail. Come over here.
I'm not sure why we went with this New York Life Investments IRA plan, but that's what was, in place when I started. And some of the highway crew was interested in maybe doing the Vermont Employees Benefit retirement plan. So I did inquire and I got some information. It is a little bit more costly to the town because the town has to put in 5.125% and now we're just doing 3%.
How much? 5.25?
5.125. And the employees themselves would have to put in 5%. And any employee being hired after, if we were to decide to do this, they would have to go with this plan, not the old plan. But the older employees could be grandfathered in and keep the old old IRA if they wanted, if they didn't want to change. And one employee did voice and say that he would be willing to put a little more in so the town didn't have to do the 5% because he thought it was a better plan. So that's something to consider too. I don't know if we can do that or not. Who's eligible for the existing plan now? Anybody that works a certain number of hours?
30 hours.
30 hours?
Do you?
Oh, wait, no, is it? No, no, I think it's 3,000. You have to make 3,000 a week. That's what the original.
Make what? Money?
A week. Not a week.
No, month.
A month.
I made that deal.
3,000 a year.
So I thought it was.
Oh.
I thought that the Vermont plan, the passive plan, I thought anybody over 24 hours.
Yeah, I can't remember that, but I know that on the other one, you had to make 3,000 a year.
So there's different requirements maybe potentially for the.
I don't,
Are you 30 hours?
yes, persons on a regular basis by school district or not.
So is that 3,000 a month? I mean, a year.
A year, that's nothing. That's nothing. So he works
But that's
very
on the
few.
old plan, and then the new
That's on
one
the
is
old
24.
IRA plan. Yeah.
So what's the new?
The new one, looks like it's gotta be 30 hours a week for the school year.
On the school year.
A regular, for a municipality, it's 24 hours per week.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So the bottom line is we were asked to consider this for employees. So Gail will provide us information. We'll review it and we'll have further discussions to see what is amenable for the town.
Yeah, and if we were to decide we have to, it would start either in July, it's quarterly when you can start up.
quarterly? Okay.
All right. Karen, did you have a? Okay.
So maybe any of the board members that have questions about what we have and what we don't have, we can all email Gail our questions so we can, gather information. Yeah. Good.
And if Gail needs, if you need help tracking stuff down, you can just ask one of us to help you do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Gail, maybe if you took both plans in 2 different columns, and concise all the conditions, pass it out, people could, make sure they can compare it,
Yeah, or you can just send me all the information. We're not really, we know that we all have certain questions, we have all the information. We're not really expecting that you have to put it all together in a way that we want to see it, but somebody's got to do that. So that's why I was thinking if we all get our questions out there, get the information back, one of us can take it and do a comparison and then we can make a recommendation.
No, I saw.
Not trying to make it work for you, but you have all the information, so it's kind of like.
I saw some of the materials. So if you I mean, it is, some of it is broken out to where you can just print it and put it side by
Yeah,
side
yeah.
and see it easily. So that'll be helpful. All right. Do we have any other comments on that? All right. Let's have Mark update us on the sheriff contract discussion.
I reached out to Bill Boniak. I talked to him earlier in the week.
I shut mine down.
I spoke to Bill Boniak tail end last week, last Thursday. Didn't get a whole lot out of the conversation. To be quite frank, he threw VSP under the bus hard. Claimed that I don't have the numbers in front of me of calls that have been responded to and calls that haven't. I've never had with the fire department any issue with VSP responding. They may take, an hour to get there, but they may be clear the other side of the state to get there. Bill, he voiced his concerns with the legislature and law enforcement and everything we heard here tonight. I did reach out to the lieutenant that was here. She has directed me to contact Montpelier. I guess it's Waterbury. I have a call into them. Haven't got a hold of anybody yet, but they're hopefully going to call me back in the next couple of days. But from Bill, I got almost nothing. He wanted, he's hoping that things get better. He's willing to look over the contract with us. If we want more policing, it's going to cost more money. I mean, there's a possibility we could contract VSP if we wanted to. I talked with the sergeant before I got a hold of the lieutenant. I don't remember his name. They do policing for Heartland and Pomfret. And he just threw numbers out there because he's a resident of Heartland. He believed it was about $60,000 a year, and they get about 63 hours of coverage a month. But that's $60,000 versus the $12,500 that I think we're paying now. So, I mean, it's a lot of coverage.
That doesn't go away.
I don't think the 12.5 goes away.
No, that's part of our.
No, that's not part of your Orange County.
That's our contract.
We have it for.
Contract with Orange County Sheriff.
Okay, so we actually have a separate contract.
Yes.
We have a copy of it?
We
Okay.
just as a point, we don't have a signed contract.
Right now. Right.
Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, that's expired.
So the previous board we had committed to reviewing the contract back in November when we were having budget discussions, and then the previous board committed to reviewing the contract in January, and we also committed to reviewing the contract as early as before we convened as this board. So
have they sent us the bill?
we have.
So we're paying, we have it on the contract. Okay, well, that's-
Kind of like a
Yeah.
teacher's union.
Yeah, but you don't, well, that's.
Yeah.
That's not, it's not really the same though. Well, then we can put that on our agenda to review that at the next meeting.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mark is taking lead on this, and we're getting the attention.
Can I ask a question?
Kate's got a question.
Mark, do you think it would be possible to get the sheriff in person to our next meeting, and we could review this contract in real time with him?
Says, can we have Bill come to the next meeting?
I thought he was going to be at this one. He asked if he could come, and I
Okay.
I do a contract tonight anyway.
Well, perhaps I suggest we could put it on the agenda, and then maybe the urgency of coming would be felt.
So we can do that.
I kind of doubt he's going to negotiate the contract, so it might be two different discussions, but Two different, there might be two different issues, you know, in terms of the contract that we should have had signed before we started paying this year, and what it says.
Yeah.
And then moving forward, what we want, you know, or expect.
Well, we should get this one signed.
Yes.
Because the
Right.
board,
So-
we said that we were gonna have those discussions.
We voted the money, we're paying the money, but we didn't sign it, we need to sign something.
And we also committed to not just signing it, but reviewing it.
Right.
There was gonna be a sit-down discussion
Right.
where we could talk with Bill about where we would need policing in certain areas, like in a problem-oriented approach. And he understands these things, but that's what we were going to be able to do. Linda Kubin has a question.
Come up here, Linda. Wait a minute.
I would just suggest that the board make a quick addendum that could be added to it with Bill here at the next meeting with your expectations of monthly or bi-monthly reports. And then you'll be getting them. Because I just find it very hard to believe. I know of other towns that contract and they get regular reports from the sheriff's department that all the select board asks for. And I just find it hard to believe that we haven't had reports in I don't know how long. And I've never seen anything in our budget that recognizes the money that comes from tickets.
Yeah. So Linda, there's one piece that I want to comment on. Well, Mark can actually pick that up about the ticket piece, right, Mark?
Yeah, Bill threw it out there that we, I think it was $400 and something that they got from revenue. I don't have any of the figures to know if we actually ever saw any of it.
Yes.
Or where, but it goes to the state and then it's supposed to come back to us.
Oh. It goes to the state, and depending on what kind of road the person was stopped on,
Well, and if they
you
complete
sometimes
that,
have to apply for this money.
Oh,
They just won't automatically give it to
Oh,
you.
for God's sakes.
Yeah. So, but it's just, I think it's just saying your expectations up front might be a good idea.
The detail.
So we want to do more than this. So they can do that.
Yeah. So in response to that, Linda, so Mary Ellen's pointing to an invoice here, and we do have some information in the invoice, like for example, a suspicious event or VIN verification or directed patrol. And is that something, are you looking for additional information in addition to that?
That's pretty good though, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I think that
Thanks, Linda.
you know, I wanted to talk, I was going to say something earlier. I know everybody was going to leave before it was our agenda item. But I think communication is also, you know, managing people's expectations.
This is
And making
Mary
sure
Ellen.
that people understand what the expectation is. You call 911, someone isn't going to be at your door in 3 minutes. It's just for all the reasons we all talked about. But there's two pieces of communication, I think, communicating with each other, but also making sure that the community has the same level of appropriate level of expectation. Same thing with this. You walk around town and they do nothing. We don't know anything they do. Well, we actually, apparently, I'm new to the board. I just understand that we do get a monthly invoice that has a number of hours, you know, and a statement of what they've done for what we're paying. This is the first I have seen this. And honestly, for me, this is sufficient information, but other people may feel differently. So we were told nobody tells us anything. So it's the same thing in terms of communication and information. If we can communicate amongst each other and make sure we all have the right information, I would like to see moving forward. This is in the orders, but you know, when we have an official select board assistant, having a packet come out Thursday before a meeting with information that pertains to all these. I got this agenda. I didn't know what to expect out of a single item on here, and I'm on the board. So in an organized fashion, and I understand we have limited resources right now, but when we have an administrative assistant, this would get posted on the website with a packet so that everybody has the information, so we can have a, you know, a meaningful discussion that's productive.
And it'll be publicly available.
So here we are talking about this, and right in our orders packet is the information we all were seeking. Thank you, Gail, for pointing that out.
Thanks, Gail. There's one comment another comment to make.
One at a time.
So I'd like to put on the agenda for the next meeting to review it and sign a contract. It's already July. We need to have a signed contract if we are paying invoices.
Sounds good. Linda, and then I know Samantha has a question. Linda, the billing, not the billing, but the tickets. So I remember I said in some of your meetings, you and Emily, when you had the intelligence-based police meetings, I ended up talking with, I think, Bill or Gail was sometime way back last year or even earlier. But, what I understood, and Bill confirmed it, was that, they can write the tickets, but they don't get a chance to collect on them because some of the tickets will be dismissed by the courts or some people will have the judgment and they never pay it. So it's like we can do a better job to stick closer to that, and we can put that in some type of reporting mechanism if we need to do that. But that's what I understand is a lot of that money that we were hoping to receive or expecting to receive, we never received it because no one's ever paid it. And that's the feedback that I got.
Yeah, that's what Bill told me was, they can plead out.
They can plead out and pay the ticket. They can fight it in court, and the officer can opt to, lower the charge, or the judge can flat out dismiss it. There's a lot of things that can happen to that money so we won't get it.
We have no control over that, really.
None.
Samantha, you had a question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So before the trooper left, he said that he regretted not saying a couple of things, and one of them being that the communication is very important between the community members and them, but also the follow up on their behalf. And that's something that I told him I would come back and say, not leaving you guys hanging, even if they can't disclose what they are in investigation, at least calling back to the victims and saying, hey, we can't tell you what's going on, but we can tell you we have made it, this far in the progress. And that's some really constructive feedback that he took back, so that way people felt they're at least being heard. And then the other part, I understand I'm not a resident here, but from hearing from the outside, is that you guys are getting these invoices, and helpful from somebody coming to most of your meetings would be having that stuff in front of you for those packets. And then the third thing is I don't know what how the Herald feels about putting in like the little blogger of when they have a report or a crime come in from the paper where I grew up in. Waterbury Record used to do it. They'd have the time, the officer, and
they do that, don't they?
That's where my neighbor gets all of her intel.
Yeah,
right.
Please.
But wherever. Yes, but however you get your information, how are they not getting it as a select board?
You gotta read the paper.
Yeah, from the paper, yeah.
But it's not a select board issue.
No.
It's hard. You have to try to get the information. It's very difficult. You're really trying hard. And
So that's Mary Ann McCann.
Mary, you got something to say, Mary Ann? You got to come up here.
no.
Okay.
So that's Mary Ann McCann.
There's court. Joanne used to do court reporting, and you can go right to the courthouse and get all that information.
You can talk into that one.
I don't know that I can say anything, but just in my experience, I have to try really hard to get any information from the court.
That's all. That's information. It's all public. The court information. When it comes on the dockets and stuff like that, you mean?
Yes, but to find it is a little bit tricky. You can't just go and say, oh, can you give me information about that? You have to know, the name, the date, the docket number. You have to have exactly, you have to already know. You can't just ask for things like,
you can go through the docket
how
on.
many people were arrested for heroin in May of 2020? You can't, they won't present information like that.
Right. No.
So it's tricky. The cops and courts actually, if you save those clippings and, over time, you could probably, that's almost a better source than the, I don't know, than actually.
Okay, move on.
All right.
Under this item was based on some Facebook posts and some comments that have been made in the past at meetings. I am concerned about safety, and if we have neighborhood watch groups and they don't know specifically who their local law enforcement agency is that they're working with, and we don't have something in place that we consider local policing, that somebody's gonna get hurt. I mean, I asked y'all for the budget. I haven't had a chance to go through it to see if we have any extra money in any location. But if you look on, I mean, neighborhood watch groups are supposed to work with local law enforcement. Our local law enforcement is Vermont State Police. That's not really local. So the only role I really see the select board in this whole thing is, you know, do we feel strongly enough that we need to provide some local policing or not? And we kind of talked about that there's some options, right? And is it an immediate need where we need to piece out a few hours a week now, or is it something, I originally had thought the next budget season, but based on the things I read online, I was very concerned for the safety of anybody that's doing anything. I mean, we don't want a neighborhood watch group that is acting as law enforcement. And if we don't provide them with a local law enforcement partner, I fear that somebody will get hurt.
One of the things when I reached out to,
This is Mark.
When I reached out to the state police, and I've been routed up to, I think I'm at the assistant commissioner now. That was one of my points, and asked them if there was any way they could, for lack of a better term, have a seminar for our community watch group. You know, what do you do? I mean, do you sit in your house behind the window? Can you go outside and say something? Should you? What are the signs to look for if someone's acting suspicious? Should you, confront them? Should you not? And have it come from, if they could send a trooper down to talk to them, have it come from the horse's mouth, so that they're confident in the information they're getting, and they know, don't do this, do this. If someone's walking around looking like they're going to shoot somebody, stay away from them. Well, and some things that sound common sense in the heat of the moment aren't so common sense.
So I think we're moving into that second piece, that community policing.
Yes. Sorry.
So we've gone past contract and we're going into that. Before we go further, I know, Kate, you wanted to talk a little bit to that, correct?
Yeah, can you hear me? Most of what I wanted to say has already been said, so I don't want to waste anybody's time by just repeating things, but I'm grateful for VSP showing up tonight. That means a lot, and I hope that we can, as a board, come up with a plan to support our community in the ways that we need to, without, since we don't have a magical $100,000 extra for our budget to address this. I think that I'd like to leave this meeting tonight with like actual steps for what we hope to accomplish by the next board meeting, so that we can move forward with the sheriff's contract and have some tangible steps for our town, so they know what we're doing. And perhaps those steps were made and my audio was out, and I apologize for that. It just keeps going in and out.
Yes, Kate, so thanks. So what we do have is we're all going to put that sheriff's contract on the next meeting agenda. And
does that mean that we're going to try to get Bill at the meeting?
And we're also going to ask that Bill attend the next meeting.
Okay.
One comment, and we'll go back to Mark and Mary Ellen here. But after our last meeting, Mark, and you triggered my mind here. I reached out to some folks that I used to work with at the Department of Justice, and I asked them to give us some materials on, what governments can do to support organic community watch or neighborhood watch programs. So hopefully I'll get that stuff in the next week or so. If we need to, I can try to, work to see if we can't get folks from within Vermont to meet with us and talk us through setting things up, or how the board or how governments can support these initiatives. And maybe I can, again, reach out to them and have them maybe come up to, help us understand what we
Well,
can do to make the community.
It would be nice to
better,
know
too.
what role you should play in this.
Yeah.
I mean, if any, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
I mean, other than support them,
Yeah.
I don't know what other role select board has in
So-
it, but maybe they do.
Yes, Phyllis, and that's good. So one of the questions that was posed to me recently, I guess today or yesterday, was, can community members put the neighborhood watch signs on public signs? And so someone said, no for state signs, and I don't know for town signs. So I think I'll
Zoning.
ask Mary Ellen.
Well,
to
that could be
check.
usually signs fall under zoning.
We do have a sign ordinance, but it doesn't appear as though it's for the town, it's for the board. It just appears for private businesses.
Well, usually a sign ordinance will tell you, they'll have a distinction between temporary signs and permanent signs, and whether they can be in a right of way or not.
So do you think this is something you could track down
Sure.
for us? All right, thanks, Mary Ellen. So that's basically a question about, with folks having their community watch signs and they're getting this
Yeah.
effort underway, can we
Where
support
should
them
they
with
put,
that?
right, where can we guide them on where to put the signs, where it's appropriate, where it's not?
Thank you. All right, so that's the update that I had. I don't know. Hopefully it can help.
I mean, like the state police said,
You're muted, Mark,
It's
you're
Mark.
muted.
yeah.
Bear with me. Like the community watch, the state police said about the community watch, they're not going to stop the amount of comments, and the community watch group isn't either. That's a sad fact.
I don't stop what?
The amount of comments in the world.
Yeah.
If they're committed in their mind, in their actions to doing this sort of thing, there isn't a whole lot that we're going to do as a board or the community group to stop them. We can be a fly in the ointment, we can be an irritation, so that we don't look like as appetizing a target. But direct confrontation isn't going to stop them. It's not going to stop them from doing what they're doing because of who they are. What it's going to keep the honest people honest. The people that, oh look, so-and-so's garage is open, I wonder what's in there. If there's somebody standing on the corner watching them, it's going to deter that type of person. So and like the state, it's going to keep the honest people honest. And if we can at least narrow it down to where it's the 2 or 3 Amanda Conants we see every 5 to 10 years, that's significant enough for me. It still makes you feel a little unsafe, but
Yeah,
we
well,
can't stop it.
Yeah, Mark, and I agree with you in that sense that there is a question as to how much effort do we put into 2 or 3 individuals to deter them. And we can do a number of things such as stay on the police to target them for additional enforcement as and also target hardening so we can make our property less attractive to theft or communities by doing initiatives like community watch. So those are
Cameras, locks.
Yeah. All right. Do we have any other comments, Mary Ellen? Kate? All right. Any questions from the public there? Since we anything else? All right. So we'll move on to the update on one of the FEMA teardowns. So I talked with, before I lost internet, so that was about a week ago, right? The I can't remember, the Murray Masterson, and the gentleman sent a note and said that the site is, I don't have the email in front of me. Do you remember it?
Yeah,
Gail has it. Thank you, Gail. I'll just repeat what Gail says, since I don't have the. I think the site is okay when it comes to the contamination, right?
Yeah, basically they're gonna close it out.
Okay, so the site is going to form the dig house will be closed out, I guess, for monitoring and for mitigation, correct?
Yeah, order sampling results all came back clean, so we recommend closing the site in the investigation report.
All right, so the sampling results came back clean, so they're recommending closing the site and the investigation report. So we should be good on that property.
Good.
All right, any questions there? All right,
Did you reach out to him? When was he going to tell you that?
Oh, I did.
I know you reached out to him. When were they going to tell us?
Doesn't matter. Phyllis said, go check this out. And I did.
Good for you.
All right, so we have I'm not sure, the post-pandemic community celebration, possible dates and structure. Kate, this is
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
So I wanted to throw out, I was trying to think of like when. I know we had talked about it being like tagged on to the flea market, but I just feel like when we don't have a whole lot of community-wide events, and it would be nice to maybe spread them out a little bit. But I wanted to suggest a Sunday, like early evening. So for example, something like July 25th, I thought it would be, we could have it like kind of a 4 to 7 community-wide potluck on the green, on the North Common. I'd love to be able to find some music for this. I know that we don't have a budget for this, but I thought I could look into getting somebody to perhaps sponsor it, to sponsor the music. And it would be, pretty informal. I toyed around with the idea of like having a game or something, but I think it would be just nice to have, just a potluck for all to come to.
We do have some money in the Old Home Day Fund, not a lot.
So Gail mentioned there is some money in the Old Home Days Fund.
Okay, I'll look into that. Do you have a ballpark, Gail?
I'm thinking 1,000, but.
Oh, okay.
And I'm thinking let's not spend it all.
Lamar, we want this to be a good party.
Mark has a question.
Yes.
Not that I'm opposed to having it at a different date, but just a thought is that if you can tie it on to the flea market, we have a semi-captive audience at that point. I mean, we've already got the main event has drawn the crowd out there. If you could tie on to that to kind of keep the people there and
the people do not stay at the flea market. When 3 o'clock comes, they
This is
are
Phyllis.
gone.
Maybe Sunday though, the same weekend, so people visiting come out of town, but I know.
I agree with Kate to make it separate. There's way too much going on that day. I think.
And I think
we've had chicken barbecue, we've eaten. I mean, I don't know. Then for people to go home and try to come up with a potluck and come back, or I would prefer a different date. That's just my take.
Mark, I thought about that a lot with the flea market. I think my thoughts there are that, as Phyllis said, a lot of people are getting out of there at 3. And not that I don't want to make this welcoming to out of towners, but the flea market is like a very, it's not just Chelsea, and there are a lot of out of towners. And while anybody is welcome to this, I would love to really center it as Chelsea. And I think, especially given the last couple weeks with all that's going on in our town, it would be so good to have our town be able to come together kind of in an insular way, but in a celebratory manner. So that was my reasoning. But if I defer to the board, if I'm alone in that, I'm happy to plan it on any day.
All right. Thanks, Kate. Mark, did you have any other? All right, so I guess we will move on to the public review, Hillside Homes property transfer.
Well, so sorry, LeVar.
Yeah, here. What?
I just wanted to know, should we set a date for that so that I can move forward in planning it? Because
Yep. That's what.
Okay.
What you said sounds good.
Okay, all right.
Don't have any other dates for posting, so let's just move forward with your dates and time. And if you look into getting give us an update.
Okay, thank you, Marianne.
Right. Just a note, Jeff is with us now. So we'll still continue on. All right, so we'll go to the public review, Hillside Homes property transfer. I'm
Why
not
are
sure what that
why are you
is.
looking at that?
All right,
Over here,
Karen,
Karen, over here.
or Mark. Use Mark.
And David McCarthy is on.
Hello, everyone. Can you all hear me?
You there, Mr. McCarthy?
He's here. Can you guys hear him?
Oh, it's
Yes.
just for the property review?
Ah.
Okay. All right, David, Karen, you defer to him? Okay, David, you're up.
Okay. Thank you all for accommodating me via Zoom tonight. It's nice to see you guys having a public meeting in person again. We haven't quite started those down here where I live, but I think they will be soon. I'm here to speak with you about our proposed acquisition of the Chelsea, Hillside, and Chelsea Court properties. If you're not familiar with them, Chelsea Court is located on Riverside Lane, and it's consists of 22 units of elderly housing for seniors that is completely assisted with a Section 8 contract. Chelsea Hillside is located nearby, and it consists currently of 12 units, I believe, of family housing, and also assisted completely with a Section 8 contract. And the reason we're, I'm sorry, it's 14 units at Chelsea Hillside. The reason that I'm here to speak with you is that my company is entered into a contract to acquire these two properties. We specialize in renovation and redevelopment of existing affordable housing. We're based in Norwalk, Connecticut, the other side of New England from you. And the company name is Heritage Housing, Inc. We've done projects so far in West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, and this will be our first project in Vermont. But we're pretty accustomed to working in other states and traveling. And what we're putting together a application to VHFA, which is the Vermont Housing Finance Authority, for low-income housing tax credit funding and tax-exempt bond financing that would enable us to do a pretty substantial renovation to the properties, and would also preserve them as affordable housing for 30 years into the future. We have not completely ironed out our scope. We have, our plans are being developed at the moment, but the preliminary scope would include replacing a lot of the aging interiors of the apartments, such as kitchens, bathrooms, flooring, replacing the old boilers in the buildings, doing some roof replacement as needed, particularly at Chelsea Hillside, window replacement, and work on the site, including drainage improvements and paving. And then lastly, we are looking into whether we can work with the state incentive programs to be able to add some insulation to the buildings and hopefully replace the siding as well. One specific item I do want to bring up that might require some coordination is we were out at the site a couple weeks ago and noticed that the road to Chelsea Court is actually a dirt road. We are proposing to pave the portion of that we own, which is about half of the roadway and all of the driveway, all of the parking lot. We'd be very interested, however, in working with the town to try to pave the entire road. A lot of the, as I understand it, a lot of the tenants walk along that road to get to town or use it frequently. And we might be able to secure a good price from a paving contractor, you know, if we are lumping in our side of it as well. It's just a thought. Understand you guys have budgets and things you have to work with too. But if that's of interest, we would love to try to partner with you on that. And at this point, I'll just open it up to any questions you have about our plans. And
Yeah, David, Mary Ellen has a question here.
David, what's the time frame for your construction activities in the paving that you just mentioned? Is it 2022?
We're far ahead of ourselves here. Our hope is to be able to close on the financing and acquire the properties in the fall. We would immediately begin renovations, but something like paving really couldn't occur until probably this time next year. We'll miss the paving window by the time we actually close on our financing.
And I've got a question. What is the, for the tenants and all of these considerable renovations, what happens with them?
Well, we do a lot of this. All of the projects we do are in-place renovations. And so we've developed a bit of skill with it, but the typical process we do, which we would propose to do here, is to leave a couple of units vacant at the properties. And at the beginning of the renovations, we would furnish those apartments. And then the tenant would move into that apartment temporarily for a period of 2 to 3 weeks, depending on the scope of work. And then when the renovations are completed in their apartment, they would move back, and we would then move to the next group of apartments. It's called a hotel unit approach. It works quite smoothly. The tenants prefer it because usually the alternative would be a permanent move from one unit to the next, and tenants generally don't like that. They like staying in the apartment that they've always lived in.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions?
Kathy, MC.
Can you
yeah.
spell your name and tell me the name of your company again to confirm?
Sure. My name is David McCarthy. It's MCCARTHY. The company is Heritage Housing, Inc.
Thank you.
And we're based in Connecticut.
Thank you.
I would just like to say that I am thrilled that someone's going to buy those places and renovate. They are in bad need of renovations, and they haven't been kept very well. Whoever's been maintaining, we hear people complaining all the time that nobody will come fix things. I don't know, but I'm thrilled that that's going to happen.
I mean, I was just curious, does your organization also do the management after the fact or just the ownership? Do you subcontract out the management? It's great that they're renovated, but once they're renovated, there's the whole management piece.
Right. We do not manage on our own, at least not at the current time. We are intending to keep the existing management in place, given that they're local and familiar with the properties. But we are active owners. I do a weekly call with my property management companies. We do regular inspections of the buildings. And we don't take the role of owning a property lightly. We also will have a lender and a tax credit investor partnered with us in this, and they will also play a role in overseeing the properties as well.
We do have zoning in Chelsea. You probably know that already, but that's something to consider with your proposed renovation.
Do we have any other questions? Karen?
No, it just says it's all rehab work. Right, special checking.
Well, if he doesn't, right, yeah, oh, yeah.
All right, David, did you have anything else for us?
No, it's really just an introduction. I appreciate you taking the time to let me address you. I'm hoping, to be able to come up and visit you guys in person at some point, but it's a big trip. And when I reached out, I was fortunate enough to be able to get onto this week's agenda, but I didn't really have time to kind of rejigger all of my schedule to get up there. But we will definitely be back up. My construction manager will be up there next week, and hopefully I'll have a chance to address you in person sometime in the future. Thank you. And
yes, thanks for meeting with us.
And if you have any other questions or concerns as things go forward, I can send my contact info to the board if you'd like, or whatever would work.
That would be great. Thank you so much.
Okay, great. Will do. All right, thanks everyone. Take care.
Bye.
So we've got two other things. We have executive session, we have approval orders. I'm wondering if we should approve orders before we do the executive session.
What about the other one?
What's another one?
Karen.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, let's go to Kate first. I missed that one. So Kate, let's go to you.
Hold on, LeVar, sorry. Did you bring up the liquor liquor? Okay, because I forgot to put it on there and I wasn't here in the beginning.
Yeah. All right, so let's, I'm sorry I missed you there, Kate. So we'll go to advertising for administrative assistant and then approve orders, and then we do executive session.
Yeah, I just wanted to give you guys a heads up that I only have $20 left in my advertising budget, and that I think that we should consider some other, I think we should consider upping that budget, and maybe that I don't think that the Herald, while it's a newspaper that I absolutely love and subscribe to, I don't know that that's the most effective way for us to be advertising right now. And I would recommend that we move on to something like Indeed, and we will be charged per applicant, but it's a pretty nominal fee. It's like $7. And I think it would be well worth $7. So I think that would be well worth our time. And so I wanted to ask the board for the go ahead for another, like, cap it at $100 for continuing to advertise.
So one thing I want to comment on here is, as when we advertised it last time for the previous administrative assistant, we only had one applicant.
You also just advertised in the Randolph paper, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to broaden your search.
So we could do that, I'm thinking, but then we have to also keep in mind of what timeline we're looking at hiring someone.
Well, we originally said the 18th, but I think that,
if we have an applicant, then
what?
I don't. Yeah.
What did we spend Kate? What did we spend that $180
on? It was 2 advertisements, like ads in the Herald, and then which are each $70, and then so that's $140, and then the additional $40 were 2 smaller ads in their like classified section, or I'm not sure what they phrase it as, but it's a smaller ad. But I figured I couldn't keep affording the bigger ads, so I tried for the smaller ads. Bigger ads didn't necessarily seem to be working, and then I've been sending them on the listservs, which are free.
I think you need to broaden your search out to Berry and White River areas.
Yeah.
Indeed, I think is
Indeed is good
because nobody looks at newspapers anymore.
Well,
for jobs. You go online.
Either Facebook ads or Indeed.
Wait a second. So Jeff, you had said about Indeed.
Indeed, ZipRecruiter. Because I mean, when people are looking, 7 days, those are the places you look for jobs around here.
Mary Ellen, you were saying.
Oh, you think 7 days would be worthwhile?
Yeah, 7 days has a pretty good job section.
Okay.
So
I never thought about that.
So the concern I have is if we set a timeline, then for me it's an issue of fairness. That if we have applicants that have met that timeline, it's like, do we just ignore those applicants while we keep sending out to other people, or what do we do?
Well, I think we can interview applicants that we have while thoughtfully advertising as well. I don't know that. I mean, I don't think that those have to be mutually exclusive.
I agree with Kate.
Okay. So is there well, let's find out, do we have money first?
Yeah, there's money in the Selectboard advertising budget still.
All right, and we're in
Right
June.
here.
How much do we have left?
Advertising 1,500. I don't know if this includes what Kate just spent. What's this, Rubio? We spent 275.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything on here, so that should be about right.
Yeah, so we have a $1,500 budget and we spent 275 to date. So I think we have plenty of money in the budget to support.
I would suggest Indeed in 7 days and see how it works, and then we can move forward with the interview.
All right. So is there a motion on the floor for a specific amount for this action?
What about that cost? I mean,
For time frame.
Well, we got to see on.
I'll move to advertise in 7 days and on Indeed and cap our budget at.
Wait. Go ahead.
in 7 days for that.
You
I have no idea.
I don't know.
For 1 week.
Yeah, that's true. So 200. Let's cap it at $200, and we can reconvene if there's an issue.
So I hear a motion made to have Kate advertise and
here, you know what?
Indeed
We got
and
it for the
other
company.
sources for that. So it's not limited to Indeed, but Indeed and other sources for an amount of $200 maximum. Is there a second? All right, Mark Whitney has. No, he's not.
He's checking the cost because
I'm waiting for further discussion, and I'll say how much it costs for the advertisement.
All right, so it's been seconded by Mark Whitney. Is there any further discussion, Jeff? Since you made the motion.
I am checking on the price on 7 days.
All right, Mark, comments? We're waiting for Jeff.
Yeah, I'm kind
All
of
right.
curious if the 200 is enough or not.
you hate to just not be quite enough and have
Right.
to fill up the-
Can we
fill
ask
up
and
the-
then ask to do it for free?
Can we just say advertise for 2 weeks on each of them? But maybe we're not willing to take the jump, not knowing.
Well, the motion's for a $200 ceiling.
Okay.
So, and that's for Indeed and other venue.
The world?
The world is a free.
I know. A lot of people use the world.
I use the world.
Because we mentioned that.
We talked about that last
I
time.
thought
So
we
Kate,
talked about
consider
that.
the world also, since the motion
Okay.
was for Indeed and other venues.
It's not free, but it's cheap.
All right.
So let's.
Reader.
Well, we don't need
Well, yeah.
it. So if we don't have any further discussion,
So you could as little as $80, and depending on how long you have it in 7 days, as much as $1,800 for an extended campaign.
Like 2 weeks by 160.
So I would assume that we'll probably be looking at like 80 to 160 for that. Indeed, depending on how many. So I may want to modify to say like 350. Amend. Sorry. So I'm gonna move to amend the motion to change the cap to $350.
all right. Let's just say, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Well, let's just go by acclamation. Is there any objection? All right, let's just go ahead.
Okay.
So the amended motion is for $350 maximum for Kate to advertise and Indeed and other venues
I would limit it to 7 days and see what happens. Because
if she wants to choose 7 days, then
I think Indeed. I was searching for a job 9 years ago, and I still get Indeed in my email box. I
Yeah,
think Indeed is
And I think
pretty
World is a
widely
good
spread.
choice. So
So
those
maybe-
three.
All right.
so do you want to
I'm a
specify?
vocational counselor and I tell all of my clients to look on Indeed. I help people get jobs for a living, and Indeed is the way to go.
All right.
Okay.
Kate Thomas.
Oh, I agree.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree too.
All right.
All right.
So we've got the 350. So is there any other discussion? All right, let's vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Signify by saying aye. So that's aye. That's unanimous, and this vote includes the chair. Good job, not the acting chair, me. All right. So, anything else with that, Kate?
Nope.
All right. So, is there a motion to approve the orders? All right. Mark Whitney has moved to approve orders. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Mary Ellen has seconded. Is there any further discussion? All right. My question is, Phyllis, you've got numbers to publish. All right. So let's vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. Now we'll go into executive session for personnel issues. So we'll ask all non-members to vacate, and then
They're fine. They were outside.
Talk chit chat, I'm sure.
I have no.
all right. Karen and Gail aren't coming back. All right. So we've moved out of executive session as we moved in by acclamation, and we have no decision to make or was made. All right. Do we have any other business? All right. If there's, what's that?
I don't think so.
All right. If there's no other business, then I think we can adjourn. So we are adjourned at.
I have a question. What's the next one? Is it going to be the 29th or the 6th of July? The next Selectboard meeting.
It should be the.
It should be the July 6th, but I didn't know if you guys want to be on the 29th.
I don't have my calendar there. I would err on meetings sooner rather than later, especially in light of the discussions that we've had, public discussions about policing. So it can be a shorter meeting with a truncated agenda. If it's the that wouldn't even be the 5th, would it? Oh yeah,
It would be the 29th or the 6th, but I mean it. In light of that, it's I guess it would be dependent on if we could get the contract that soon.
I would rather have it be the 6th and prepare more for the meeting than have the meeting quicker, because we have.
I would agree.
Get what we want gathered and questions answered before the meeting, but we want to get a hold of the existing contract. Time to think about what changes we want to make. Can we do all that in 2 weeks?
Well, there
I
might
would
be
agree with
other
Mary
things
Ellen.
that come up.
But
That's the only thing. And I'm just playing devil's advocate.
Well,
I don't care what we do. I'm just saying that I like to have information before we release it.
Yeah.
Well, I think we can. I just don't want to lose momentum.
Yeah.
I mean, we can just make it quick. I mean, we can have a.
To the 29th. We'll limit the agenda. My other thought is, as agenda items come in, as the agenda fills up, we can move them to the next week if they're not critical, like the housing piece. That was in no way timely. We had a lot on the agenda.
Well, we didn't know about the police being here until
I know.
So
Oh, I know, but I just mean we can always take agenda items and hold them for the next meeting if we think we have ones that will take a long time. Because this policing thing could take.
So we're adjourned at 21:40.
Over the military. Yes.
Yes.
All right, I'm signing off.
Kate's got a question. Kate.
Nope, just saying goodbye.
Thank you, Kate.
Bye, Kate. Thank you.
Bye.